I'm glad to see Lightning's not dead. But yeah, Adam.
Right. Like another thing I thought staying on user interface that is positive development is the silent payment. So people have been talking about stealth addresses for a few years now, and they weren't ideal because they sort of involve like set up transactions and op returns and things. And it turns out that the Taproot Schnorr addresses are public keys, and so some things with a bit of thought became simpler. So the silent payment makes use of that. And a nice thing is that from the user's perspective, you have a single address with which you can send to somebody, and you don't have to change it. And yet it has the benefits of not reusing addresses because the new one is used in practice. So I think that's nice. I think it does probably imply some like indexing or scanning for a full node and more use of full nodes, but it's probably not a bad thing. Too many people relying on index servers anyway. And so it's like finally somebody found a way to, by keep pushing on that problem and using some newer tech that is in Taproot and Schnorr now to find a reusable address format that doesn't like correlate all your payments, right? Which is nice. I think that's partly why people reuse addresses because they're new to Bitcoin and they think it's an account number and it's not. And so it's like a constant source of confusion and pressure. And then of course all the exchanges and everybody gives you a single address to deposit to. A few of them make a like BTC, Bitsy. They give you a new address every time you deposit, but most of them don't, right? So that's nice. And also on the Lightning side, so this kind of organic development with Bolt's exchange starting to swap liquid Bitcoin on like liquid sidechain kind of tech for Lightning balances. So they have a submarine swap for Bitcoin. And during the JPEG floods a while back, the fees got up and made that difficult to use. And so they did a kind of couple of week hackathon and implemented liquid swaps. And that's like a little faster, a little cheaper. And so actually, after the fees subsided, it became by the far the biggest ongoing swap volume. And what happened from there, because this is a trustless swap, is now a number of wallets have started a trend of making a liquid wallet that looks like a Lightning wallet, but doesn't actually have its own channels. So it's using channels managed by bolts. And so you get the kind of usability benefits of the wallet Satoshi, like the full custodial, except it's non-custodial. But of course, your security trade-off is different because now you're relying, your wallet is actually keeping its balance in liquid Bitcoin, which is a different trade-off again. But, as Lightning is a hot wallet, it's maybe not a bad trade-off. And it also doesn't really need an LSP because you don't have a channel, so you don't need to pay somebody to send you capacity or figure out how to recoup the cost of renting capacity. And actually, Breeze, who does integration APIs, added both options. Right, they already had the node option, and so they added. They call it nodeless. So nodeless Breeze Lightning is actually a liquid wallet, basically. So not what anybody expected, but the market innovates in kind of meandering ways, like picking up on some API that got used. And now, like, at Blockstream, we actually have a kind of green light, a sort of non-custodial Lightning API that makes some privacy trade-offs. And of course, Liquid, which is used by Bolt. So those two things are competing against each other in the market. So I guess you know, we get some users one way or the other, and we'll see what happens. But it has provided another little increment in Lightning, kind of making it easier to use. I think the other thing that could evolve because as we get into another bull market, the main thing that drives fees is traders being indiscriminate about fees when they're trading rapidly. That there is LOL, like Lightning on top of Liquid. So Greenlight is looking to do that, and I think Breeze announced interest in doing that. So once you have a Liquid wallet, Liquid's still a blockchain, and blockchains don't scale. Same problem, right? But you can do Liquid on top of it, and so you can let people maybe clog up the Liquid network for low value Lightning payments instead of the Bitcoin network, and it gets a bit of extra capacity with different trade-offs. So, of course, looking forward, there are lots of different new layer twos like Arc, which are Lightning-like as well, right?
It's so interesting. Or am I overstating what you just said?
I mean, I think it's the use case that becomes important in different geographies is different. So I think the emerging markets are
Yes.
originating most of the transactions,
Mm-hmm.
and in the developed countries, they originate most of the savings.
Yes.
And so I think, but I mean, I do think that they are both fundamental to the value proposition in a sense that, one of the reasons people are investing in digital gold is that it's also electronic cash for the internet. And it was easy for us to lose track of the fact that, there are billions of people who were unbanked and unable to access the global markets who now can. So I think that is, very exciting part of the value
Yes.
proposition as well.
To some extent, I think to answer your question in a different way too, I think there's a lot of interest on the development side of Bitcoin to build tooling that would better enable these use cases. Just like Adam was referencing, a lot of people, or a handful of people now doing uh, liquid wallets that do Lightning integration. So now that Lightning exists and is integrated in the big players, so in Binance, in in Coinbase, in Cash App, and all these players, then developers are now saying, okay, how do we build the best wallet we can for a lot of these people who we think have a lot of desire to use Bitcoin, who are using Binance today, who are using, literally doing custodial Bitcoin wallets, using Binance as a Bitcoin wallet today. Um, and so now there's a lot of interest in building various tools that try to explore the transition point between custodial and non-custodial. So how do we build something that's somewhere in between, that has the best security model we can, but the best usability model we can? And there's just a lot of ideas and things being built in that domain. And so as that tooling continues to improve, and now that these things are starting to exist, that then also unlocks a lot of people using Bitcoin more directly, because they might not trust Binance, but maybe they would trust this app that has a better security model.
I've also been closely watching the Cashew project, which is this charming eCash project that gives you very good usability, very cheap fees, very strong privacy, with the trade-off that it's custodial. But a lot of people are choosing custodial solutions already, so let's make custodians better. And the main benefit there is it requires zero protocol change in Bitcoin. So to our earlier conversation about how difficult it is to change Bitcoin at the protocol level, I think one of the single biggest non-protocol developments on the outside was actually the BitKey hardware wallet from Block. Because this hardware wallet is the first time that someone like my dad or someone that's completely non-technical can actually use self-custody Bitcoin in a relatively secure and easy way. It's very straightforward. Now, more technical people have some concerns about trade-offs with regards to privacy and the security guarantees, but the accessibility that it allows for people to actually use self-custody Bitcoin